Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. Saturday's feature race at Gulfstream Park is the 12th. It's the Grade 3 Howell's Hope going a one-turn mile. Our coverage is presented by DRF Bets. A $200 free bet is yours when you sign up to DRF Bets. No deposit required. Just head on over to drf.com/join and please use the promo code FREEBET09. Let's take a look at the field for Gulfstream's feature, the Grade 3 Howell's Hope. Pretty big name in here. The number 1 Irish War Cry, winner of the Wood Memorial, beaten favorite, went second in the Belmont. And although beaten favorite went second in the Belmont, this horse ran some really good one-turn races earlier in his career.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know this is probably just a starting off point for them, and I'm sure that as the year goes on, they're going to stretch him back out and go longer with him. And it sounds counterintuitive to say that you like him a little bit better going shorter around one turn, considering he's a Wood Memorial winner and was second in the Belmont. I kind of like him going shorter, though. I think this is a really good starting off point for this horse, and I'm very interested to see how he runs off the layoff. Doesn't mean I really want to bet him as the favorite in this race, but I think he's going to run well in this race.
I think he's going to show fresh tactical speed from the rail. There is some speed, probably with the 3 and the 5, and maybe Irish War Cry and Jose Ortiz can park themselves in behind. This horse has talent, there's no doubt about that, but he's also been a perplexing horse. He threw in a stinker in the Fountain of Youth. The Derby, he was cruising until he wasn't. The Haskell and Pennsylvania Derby, kind of fair efforts. Do you take him as a favorite with a horse that is kind of an in-and-outer?
I mean, I don't really want to take him as the favorite for sure in this kind of a race, especially because as you're sort of alluding to it, the way that at least I always felt about him last year as a 3-year-old. He ran some big races and he won some big races. I always felt like he was a little dressed up. He had some real good circumstances in his favor on the days that he ran really well, and otherwise he was just sort of an okay 3-year-old. I'm not his biggest fan, but I do like them going shorter with him.
5 months off could be a concern, but as we see from this formulator, Facram Motion does well with these kind of horses. Past 4 years, older dirt routers off this sort of layoff, 27% solid return on investment. Another horse that figures to take money in this race is coming off of an even longer layoff. That's number 8, Send It In for trainer Todd Pletcher. When we last saw Send It In, he ran a 1:19 Beyer speed figure in winning the Excelsior at 1.25 miles, and he looked good doing it, giving ground most of the way.
Yeah, that was actually a really good performance. Not only did he give ground in that race, but he ran down a horse who had just run another fast race prior to that, and that was Wood Memorial Day, on a day where speed was just deadly. You had to be on the lead. This horse was beaten to the front by 2 Brutus and still closed them down at the end, and it came back fast, obviously. Is he going to run another 1:19? Not only is he going to run one on Saturday, but is he ever going to run one again? No, he's probably not, but that was a fast race. The one thing that I think you like about him, not only is how much he improved for Pletcher, but Pletcher's just deadly with horses returning from long layoffs like this in route races on the dirt. I mean, it just feels like he really has these horses cranked up to run. And if he's got this horse cranked up to run, he could easily win this race.
I think he's something like 10 for 22 over the past
crazy
5 years. Older dirt routers off this kind of layoff in graded stakes races, but he's going to have to do it off the layoff. And while he has run well at 1 mile, he didn't run 1:19 until he was stretched out to 1.25 miles. This might be the starting off point. The 6 Mile Legacy, also trained by Pletcher, he had his starting off point most recently on January the 18th off of a long layoff at a distance perhaps shorter than his best. He ran just fine. I didn't like the field he was in against.
I didn't like the field he was in against, and I just, I guess if you just want to look at it as a starting off point, fine, he ran a little bit late in that race, but he got a really good trip in there. I was less than thrilled, let's just say, with his return from the layoff. Doesn't mean he can't run better in this race. He's got that race behind him. He could take a step forward here, and the mile's not supposed to be a problem for him. I don't know, Dan. I just don't know how good he is, and I just didn't love his return off the layoff.
Here's a limited positive Fletcher fact with Malegacy. Past 5 years, older sprint to route, second off the layoff on dirt, 23% to 233 ROI. Source has tactical speed, and he still has upside. This is only going to be start number 6. Let's see what the Timeform US pace projector has in store for this race. They do have the 6 Malegacy up close. They have the 3 Conquest Big E, a horse that has shown big speed in the past up close. I wouldn't be surprised if even the 5 Quixote ends up where Malegacy is in this spot on the pace projector. This is a horse stretching out after chasing the very fast XY Jet. He's an unlikely winner, but maybe he could affect the outcome somewhat.
Could be a pace factor in this race, to be sure. It doesn't even feel like if he shows up here and runs his best race, he can really win, but he can't be a pace factor in this race. I have no real argument with Conquest Big E being up there. It seems like that's his running style. The 1-turn mile is fine for him. He's run some really good races against some good horses. I thought he ran well on the Hooper last time. I mean, there are ways to look at him as a bigger price in this race and think he's got a shot in here, but I just feel like one of the bigger 3 horses off the layoff is probably going to show up and run here.
And we're going to talk about economic model right now for trainer Chad Brown. Now, this horse just seems like a true blue 7 furlong, 1-turn mile type, or Irish War Cry. Maybe he's a little better going a little bit longer. Send It In. His big race came at 1.25 miles. Economic model had a rock-solid win last time out over the much-improved Vulcan's Forge, who came back to repeat a 97 buyer in his next outing. This horse is okay. I think he might need a little bit of pace. I don't think he's going to be mid-pack. I think he'll be sort of lurking near the rear of the field.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of trip he can get in this race. The interesting thing about his last race, and you're right, I think it was a rock-solid win for him, even though he was the favorite. That was a very slow to develop pace. They did not go fast. He was able to keep it in range, and then I loved the way that he finished in that race to close it down. And just sort of as opposed to Irish War Cry, who I felt like was a little dressed up as a 3-year-old. This horse maybe was the opposite of that. I thought his form was a little bit dirtied up as a 3-year-old and as a 4-year-old. His Dwyer was a good effort on a dead rail most of the way. He ran great in the King's Bishop, also down towards the inside when Drafong just wired that field on a modest pace for that level. His Bold Ruler was good against older horses. I think this horse is actually maybe a little better than he looks on paper.
Canadian training legend Roger Atfield having a very good winner down at Gulfstream Park. He's going to try dirt for the first time with Tower of Texas, a 7-year-old making his 29th lifetime start. But you could argue he's in as good form as he's ever been. He's won 2 out of his last 3 races on turf. His race in the tropical turf 2 starts back might have been the best effort of the 3, in which he was completely stymied by a lack of pace. But let's be honest, I have no idea if he can step on dirt. And against these kind of horses, is a tough ass.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I like the form that he's in, to be sure. I agree with everything that you said about him, but he's just, it's hard to think he's going to be as good on dirt as he is on turf, and if he's not as good on dirt, he probably can't win this race.
Blinkers back on for the 7 Giuseppe the Great. His 2 career best buyer speed figures came with blinkers in the Dwyer and Woody Stevens in 2017, but do you get the feeling that this horse really hasn't improved that much? He finished ahead of Irish War Cry in the Pennsylvania Derby when picking up some late pieces last time out in the Hooper. Kind of a blah performance, I thought. Maybe there wasn't enough pace for him?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable argument to be made for him. The thing about him is, he's one of the horses you sort of understand why they went Jim Dandy Travers, Pennsylvania Derby, all those races with him. Kind of like him better in these shorter 7 furlongs to 1 mile. I think this is a good distance for this horse. He is far from impossible in here, and he's 20 to 1 on the morning line. I'm going to use this horse.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 3 Howell's Hope Stakes. You're going to go with economic model. This horse is 3 to 1 on the morning line, but I do think he's going to drift to become the 3rd choice in the race. Send It In, that 119 buyer just might be too appetizing for most folks. What odds do you play him at? How do you use him in this race? How do you play this race from a multiple race standpoint?
I don't think I would be taking 3 to 1 on him on the win end. I hope he would drift off that race if I was going to bet him to win, but I do want to use him in any multi-race wagers I play. Listen, Irish War Cry, I don't know, he could win this race, but he's not the kind of horse I'm looking to bet in here. I'm going to use Send It In mostly because of Pletcher's numbers off of these kinds of layoffs and dirt routes, and I'm going to use Giuseppe the Great. That horse is too big a price for me, and I think this is a good spot for him.
Pure stab for me with Conquest Big E. I have a sneaking sensation that he's just a little bit cheap compared to the big 3 in here, but what I do like is compared to sort of the big 2, the horses bookending the field, he's got a race, a recent race, a 98 buyer in the Hooper where he was taken out of his game early after hopping the start and then rushing up in between horses. He can be more forwardly placed in here. I like the rider switch to Luis Saez. At 8 to 1, I would fool around a little bit with Conquest Big E, but I'm going to go 3, 8, 2, 1 in the Grade 3 Howell's Hope Stakes. Again, if you are playing from home, please consider DRF Bets, $200 free bet, no deposit required. DRF.com/join, promo code FREEBET09. Approximate post time for the Howell's Hope is 5:35 Eastern. Good luck.